On June 4th, 2024. The time is 10:03. And would you stand for invocation? Dr. Steiner, would you like to do the invocation, please? Would you do the invocation?
Didn't hear you. Yes, I will. Lord, we thank you for this meeting. We pray that you'll bless everybody that's here. We thank you for the leadership of the county commissioners. We pray that you'll watch over us all, lead us and guide us in our decisions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Randy Buxton Andrade. Here. Ron Cook.
Here.
Tom Grasmick.
Here.
Rose Puglisi.
Here.
Mark Westhoff.
Here.
Janet Cohen here.
Turn Rose's volume up.
Okay, I would enter consent agenda action items. Consider approval of adoption of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Tommy, would you like to come up?
Ron,
Yes, ma'am.
it's kind of in and out. So I'm hearing every other word from you all. So I don't know if maybe Mark can put it a little bit closer to the commissioner.
I'll give it a shot. It's for some reason being very quiet. It's always been nice and loud.
Thank you.
I'm gonna talk and see if she can hear you
Can you
better.
hear it now, Rose?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to welcome everybody here. Thanks for coming. Tommy, thanks for coming this morning. As you requested, you wanted a meeting with the county commissioners. As we talked a week ago, Wednesday, you had concerns about, you had had your hours in. You didn't have enough hours to work the weekend. You had no staffing on for Memorial Day weekend, and you were going to put it on the backs of the commissioners to carry your coroner calls. I set up a meeting with the three commissioners. It was a quick call telling them what the response was and where that was at. As I advised you, it was Memorial Day weekend. With the time frame, we couldn't get a meeting set up. The commissioners were out the following week, had a CCI conference, so we couldn't get that set up. So I asked you to get something set up for June 11th. Okay? If you remember that conversation.
Yes.
Okay. So Saturday afternoon, I received a phone call. What you told me is that there was a death south of Holly, and you had no hours to respond to that call, and you were not going to respond to that call. I asked if you had a deputy on call. You said no, you did not. I understand you have 5 deputies that are sworn in, right?
Yes.
And you told me you only had one that could do investigations if you were out of town.
No, I didn't say
Okay,
that.
but you said there was absolutely nobody to take that call for the weekend.
Yes.
Okay, now I asked you if there was any other coroners from any other counties that might be able to step in and help you, and you told me no, right?
Yes.
So that really put us in a spot, because by statute, I can't touch coroner calls.
No.
Okay, I made a call to Rose Puglisi. I made a call to the sheriff. The sheriff's in a position, he cannot make calls. So we had an ambulance setting on scene south of Holly that could not transport the body, could not do anything. We had sheriff deputies responding. They hadn't got there yet. You actually gave them, the ambulance crew, my phone number.
All of your phone numbers.
Okay. I was the one that contacted them. Okay. It's very unfortunate that we were put in that position. You took an oath as the coroner when you got elected to take care of any deaths that happened in the county. Whether if you could not do it, you had to have the responsibility to have somebody perform those calls for you. That is the oath you took, and I think we talked about that. Okay? I know you have some other concerns, but I'm just going to tell you from my perspective, I personally know the person that was laying in that field, in that yard.
Oh, me too.
setting that this conversation had to go publicly, that there was this disagreement. I think there's ways we could have handled this a lot more professional, that these conversations could be had, that now the family knows about it, medical staff knows about it, sheriff department knows about it, and then obviously it's went through our community, and it's a very sad situation.
It is.
So I don't care if it's homeless or anybody's family member of this, they have to be taken care of with dignity at a point in time.
Absolutely.
So at that point in time,
What was the conversation that Tommy told you exactly? He said he wasn't gonna attend the,
he told me he was not going to attend, he was not going to take care of it. The
That's not what I
commissioners-
said.
Because
What
the
did you say?
commissioners,
I said that I would have to wait till I come back on.
he told me you'd have to wait till it come back on rounds, and that possibly be on Sunday morning.
Sunday.
so you wanted the body to lay there until Sunday?
Well, of course, I didn't want that, no.
But he did tell me that,
I'm confused.
that he couldn't go on Saturday because he was out of hours, had nobody taking call, and he would have to respond the following day when he's back on call. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so we got that one clear. In that conversation, I reminded him again of his oath and stuff like that, but at that point in time, when the sheriff called me back, the sheriff was irate, his hands was tied. I personally asked Tommy to go take care of this call, and I would set up this meeting. So thank you too for allowing me to set up this meeting at 10 o'clock and bring Tommy to the table. That is an agreement I had with him personally, that he would take care of that call on Saturday.
Yep, and I
Thank you for
appreciate
taking
it.
care of that.
Thank you for setting this meeting up.
Okay, so now I'm gonna open the floor to you.
Okay, again, I did not want to leave a person there. I've never had to do that, do not want to, but again, I've been in office a year and a half or a little over now. We've had multiple discussions on part-time, full-time pay. I brought legislation to you that says I should be full-time. I brought in my other coroner's offices, I brought in, I'm the last that I can find category 4 county that's not full-time. I've done this, like I said, working 3 other jobs doing this thing. I did not have coverage that time, and it's going to be the same thing. I'm behind on a lot of my paperwork. I've got 4 grants now that take monthly inventory or monthly accountability I have to do.
You have 4 grants?
Yes. So with those grants, I've got to be in the office more now. I'm behind on all my paperwork and what I need to do. So I'm going to have to be in the office at least 2 days a week. That being said, that's 16 hours there. My part-time, 20 hours, I think is what Wendy said I work a week.
No,
No, I didn't say that. You have said that.
You said that.
No.
You're on recording saying that I work 20 hours a week at CCI conference, which it's on YouTube, I can find it.
At a CCI conference.
Yeah, you said I work 20 hours a week, and and I refuse to work, and I only have to work 20 hours a week.
No, I'd like to hear that. I'd like
It's
to
on
hear that
YouTube,
recording.
so. And I've given it to my lawyer, and I think he's given it to Rose, but,
It's not.
okay, well, he should have, or I will, if you'd like to, but, like I said, I worked 3 other jobs, and this has been going on for, like I said, almost 2 years now, where we spoke about full-time and transitioning to full-time. My deaths now are, I'm about 50 deaths this year. I think 7 to 8, I'm not sure, because I'm not caught up on my exact tallies of autopsies, but probably 7 or 8 autopsies this year. Like I said, with the deputy coroners, Marcus is the one who takes most of the calls, able to do a lot of it, Mark Swidener. He's able to do most of it the Monday to Thursday time frame, and that's usually when I'm available, so he's gone most weekends, and there's not much else I can do, so without being compensated or, they've made right, and I don't feel past 20 hours that I need to, that I can or continue to take call after that.
You don't get to make that choice.
Marge is.
People don't have to look at you.
Marge,
Die.
time out, please, would you sit down, please?
She doesn't need to be there scowling and looking at this.
Okay.
It's inappropriate.
Please go sit.
It's very inappropriate.
Please don't sit. There's no seats. You don't have to sit here. run this meeting civilly,
And we'll
please.
be professional. If you want to speak, please raise your hand so we can get your name on the recording so we know. So please refrain from outbursts. Okay, so.
So again, this legislation passed, this was 3 years ago, saying my county should be full-time. They left it up to you three. And that is the only reason that I feel it's appropriate for people to call you guys, because this is completely your decision. It's no one else's decision whether I'm full-time or part-time. And that's in the legislation.
Rose, can you address that, how that legislation works, please?
Yes. So that bill that was passed was in 2022. It says that a coroner, in consultation and with approval of the Board of County Commissioners, can determine if full-time position is appropriate. If it is agreed on, the salary will be increased. It also says that that decision must be made prior to January 1st of 2024 and cannot be made for another 2 years. When the commissioners adopted their budget, they adopted a budget with part-time salary. That was the decision of the commissioners at that time prior to January 1st of 2024. Under statute, it cannot be adjusted now.
I don't think it says it cannot be adjusted. It says
It says
prior
must
to
be,
January 1
must
each
be
2
adjusted,
years. Must, yes.
Must. There must means it has to be adjusted prior to January 1st, 2024. Must in statute says that it cannot be done after. It has to be adjusted prior to January 1st, and then prior to January 1st, each 2 years thereafter.
Yep, so that being said, I brought the full-time coroner to you guys, correct, on the, I think we have one budget meeting on it.
We met 3 times to discuss your budget.
I'm addressing the commissioners. So I did bring the full-time budget to you guys, correct?
Yes, it was presented.
This full-time was presented once and never discussed again. And I mean, as what Mark said in the email, that you guys didn't have to give reason why you chose what you chose, and it was just what it is then, right? But it also
Yeah.
says that.
Since you brought up an email that I sent, may I respond to that, please?
Sure.
I sent an email saying they don't have to justify it, but I also justified it in the same email. I explained to you their reasoning. I said they don't have to justify it, but here's their reasoning.
Yep, and in other conversations we had about full-time, the only response I got is that it's always been this way, and there's never been a response from you guys about full-time, and why you don't think it is.
Last year, correct me if I'm wrong, but you discussed in the budget meetings, you had 12 to 16 deaths last year that you responded to. That's what you said. Those were your words when
I
you
believe those are
presented
the
us with this.
autopsies.
Autopsies.
Those are the
Okay.
autopsies.
Thank you.
So, and with that, I mean, the budget can be amended anytime throughout the year, correct?
Not
Not
for wages,
salaries.
that's what the statute says, they have to wait 2 years.
Well, but our budget can be amended if there's reasons for it, right?
Your budget as far as what, the salaries?
Yes.
No, not your salary, it's set, that's what the statutes say, that's what our lawyer just told us.
As
Yes,
an
but our-
elected official, we cannot take a raise during our term of our office.
Well, and I'll have to get with my lawyer on that. He could be present today, but that I don't think that's correct completely, because we can't amend the budget throughout the year, correct?
We can amend that budget.
Okay.
Yes, we can. And
But-
in different areas, we have amended it depending on what you needed for conferences, or what you needed for travel expenses, or what you possibly needed for deputy salaries.
And
That you can-
grants.
That can be changed in that.
Rose, can you give us an attorney opinion on the salaries, please?
So there's a difference between a supplemental budget, which means unexpected and unanticipated changes to the budget when the budget was adopted in December. Those happen throughout the year. There's a difference though in the statute. The commissioners did make a decision. Their decision was in the budget. And the statute is very clear that it must be adjusted prior to January 1st, 2024. What you're hearing is if they change their minds, they can do a supplemental to change the budget. That is not what the statute says. It is not what the statute allows. They did make a decision. This was not unforeseen. They kept you at part-time, and the budget was adopted with a part-time salary. So it cannot be adjusted through a supplemental. And the statute is very clear that any salary changes must take effect by January 1st, 2020.
Yes, and I did express that timeline to them several times and prior to, but I think it needs to be further discussed, later on with my attorney. But again, there's no reason for the part-time other than it's always been done or whatever. I've never had a reason, a justified reason.
Can I discuss that? Since the budget is part of my job, and I had extensive discussions with the commissioners about the budget, and we ran the numbers, Paula and I ran the numbers that you provided to us, and based on your estimates, it still was less expensive to run with a part-time salary for the coroner and providing deputy pay for whenever you are unable to cover your duties. It was still less expensive for the county to do it that way, even with the numbers that you provided, even with the months towards the end of last year when you were unable to cover for quite a few days, and we had a lot of deputy days that we covered on call. We included that in the budget.
But now we ran into the situation where we're at now, where there's no deputies and it's still part-time. So
But
You have no deputies?
I just explained the situations that we're in now.
I'm just saying, all I'm saying is how we came to the budget decision. And there was a reason. I emailed it to you, and we discussed it. We've discussed it multiple times.
You guys have discussed it.
We've discussed it with you in a public meeting recently to talk about this. So there are meetings.
Definitely not during the budget. We never discussed that during the budget talks.
Again, okay, we had 3 budget meetings with you. We've talked about the full-time or part-time salary probably 10 times since you came into office.
Exactly.
When you first came in,
Well, when I first came in, I asked, whenever I presented it, I think Tom said, there's not enough deaths in this county, and I
He
asked
said,
Tom
bring
how
us
many
information.
deaths there were,
Do that.
and he did not have an idea.
he asked you to bring the information
Which
to
I
the
did.
budget meetings, and you did, and we analyzed it and came to this decision. We do that with every department, every constitutional office in this budget.
I think it
We
was-
increased your overall budget.
Oh, I saved how much last year? 13,000 or something? I didn't use 12,000.
Yeah, I could get those numbers, but we increased your overall budget by $15,000.
And it was actually an increase for body bags and stuff like
And
that
autopsy costs.
because of a fire prior to you getting to office. So we had to replace a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And Ron, if I can say just 2 more things real
Yes,
quick. Thank you. One is there is no set time frame in statute for an elected official for part-time or full-time. So the 20 hours, I'm not sure where that came from, but that is nowhere in statute. There is no distinction on hours in statute for elected officials. So I just want to say that. The second is that the commissioners cannot take on the duty of the coroner. No elected official other than the coroner can perform those duties for a deputy. Otherwise, there's liability for the county, and that was a discussion that Ron and I had the weekend as well, is that opens up the county to liability, so I want to put that on the record. And under the coroner statute, either coroner needs to be present or one of his deputies. And that is solely within the responsibility of the coroner's office. No one else can make those decisions. So I just wanted to put that in there.
Well, and obviously, I'm not asking you guys to go take care of it, but again, I've been doing this for almost 2 years and not been compensated, and it's not only affected me personally and my family, but again, I've got to work 3 other jobs to make a living on top of this. So again, it's not that I'm putting anything on you guys, and I wouldn't expect you, or obviously by law, nobody can do anything with it. I'm not refusing to go get the body. I'll definitely do that and uphold my end of it. But again, it's one of those things that it's not fair now, and it's coming, there's issues now. So,
On Saturday, until I personally asked you to go do this, so I can have to get this meeting set up, you actually did refuse to get that body on Saturday.
Yeah.
And was gonna wait till Sunday to get that body.
so there's no time frame of when I have to get it either.
Yeah, but with due respect.
Well, due respect, I brought these issues to you guys forever, and Mark's and there's laughing. It's pretty frustrating.
I'm not
You
laughing.
can be professional, but I brought these issues to you for a year now, over a year, and I've expressed how this should be a full-time position. Other people have expressed that to you, and it's gotten nowhere.
Marge?
I'm probably the only other person in this room that fully understands the duties and the things required of this job. Basically, the coroner has two functions. Those functions are to determine the cause and manner of death. This man campaigned on bringing dignity and transparency and compassion to the coroner's office. Does anybody in this room, anybody, and I defy you if you say yes, think there's any dignity, compassion, or transparency to leaving a body lay on the ground? I'm also here, and don't you interrupt me, I am also here in my capacity as belonging to being a voting member of the Holly Fire and Ambulance District. You kept an ambulance tied up there, sir, because of this ridiculous notion of yours that you're going to force the commissioners into paying you full-time salary. In the first place, that's despicable to leave that man lay there like that.
Okay,
Is this
That
a
is
public
nothing.
discussion, or is that at the end?
thank you.
Is public discussion at the end or during this? Should be at the end. correct?
This needs to come in so that everybody can hear it and think it through for the rest of your stuff. Because I know what this job
It's
entails.
appropriate.
Thank you, Marge.
Commissioners can run the meeting how they want.
The other final word with that is, if he ever ties up an ambulance crew and somebody calls and has a life-threatening emergency and that ambulance can't get there, the Holly Fire Ambulance District is going to personally own him for the rest of his life and probably the county.
Thank you, Marge.
That's not true. I spoke to both EMT and our law.
You can speak to whoever you want. That's my job and I'm doing it.
Please, let's keep this very professional.
Ron.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I just want to be clear that the chair runs the meeting and can call on anyone at any time. It is not inappropriate. So it is in the discretion of the chair.
Okay, so please, let's keep this very professional, okay? Derek?
So I want to ask a question or a comment. So I believe it was a meeting on February 20th that I was in here and attending, and our coroner stated how unprofessional I was because he said I did not respond to a call in a timely fashion, which I actually sent you guys, I believe all of you, that I actually was on scene within 10 minutes, but I was meeting with another family, so my driver was coming and it was probably an hour. So it's not okay for me to do this as a prior commitment, but an elected official has the right. Is this correct? So how long did it take from the time of coroner being called out to coroner arriving on the scene on Saturday?
I do not have the exact time that you were actually called. I have the time that you called me, but I don't have the time that you were called by dispatch to go to that scene.
It was still under the time, which is irrelevant to this now, but
Can you state the time that it took you to get to the call, please?
the time I was there, so it was within 30 minutes from me leaving my house to get there, or 35 minutes.
But from the time you got
40 minutes.
the initial call from dispatch until the time you got on the scene.
Can you take those exact numbers from dispatch?
You can.
I don't call the dispatch when I get there. I don't have a radio or anything,
But
so.
was it not stated in that February meeting that I'm not allowed to do that?
I'm just unprofessional.
I was there within 10 minutes, Tom, you know it.
Okay.
And I have the I have the dispatch call saved on my phone, and I have the time I called your superior officer, Dave Doherty, when I was on scene, and I believe it was 13 minutes if I'm not correct, give or take.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, so in this conversation, we've had this conversation several times. Tommy has a concern with part-time to full-time labor. As salary as far as statute, there is a concern. Rose has brought it up on statute of what the commissioner's responsibility is. As of January 1st, 2024, we left his salary at the same it was. It can be renegotiated in 2 years, which is 2026 when he's reelected. So at this point in time, do you have anything else, Tommy, you would like to add? I mean, we've hashed this out. Our hands are tied by statute of what we can move forward with. As far as
I'll look into that.
I have one quick question. When you ran for office, did you know what it paid? Because like when I ran for office, I actually didn't have a clue what it was. I was just running to do the job.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the pay.
No, that's why I brought the
Public service.
statute to you
So-
after. I had no idea.
So
about it.
did you know what it paid when you did, because you actually did deputy before you got it there?
No, I had no idea what it paid. But I had no idea what it entailed either in the change. I mean, I think when the last year, Dave, there was 75 deaths or something, and last year we were over 100, so, and this year we're on track to do that or more, so.
Now, you say 75 deaths. Are those all deaths that you actually are on scene for?
They're all reportable deaths.
But you're actually on scene for all of the, what you said 50 earlier. You're on scene for every one of those.
We investigate each of those deaths. They could be hospice deaths or, they're all reportable to the coroner or statute.
You
But
investigate hospice deaths?
you actually go to the death and see the person.
It's up to the call.
It's like my mom was a hospice death and I did never see the coroner.
No, it's
It was
reported
just
to
my
the
mom.
coroner's office.
Reported through it.
And not all hospice deaths, we go on scene, but we get the paperwork and we investigate over it.
Okay. All right, Cindy?
I'm Cindy B. Hill. My question is, and I'm very confused on when we, as a voter, when we voted on this, where are you getting the 20 hours? I don't remember ever seeing anything
And that's
that,
per Wendy. It's what she said.
but whether or not she said that, I'm asking you, where is it that it was written? I don't recall that ever being in anything that I read working up to voting for whoever that said that the coroner's office was a 20-hour week. I thought you were a salary, basically, a salaried employee, not hourly. So how are you getting that at 20 hours you are finished?
Well, a lot of that is part-time per the state or federal government is 20 hours a week.
But not by statute on your job.
But there's no time frame on it.
Then how are you getting that at 20 hours you cannot respectfully respond to a body that is laying there?
And again, I said I would respond. The 20 hours came from Wendy herself and from the state statute or the labor.
That's not the state statute. for
No.
labor.
Or the federal, or it's 20 hours
It's not
a
the
week.
federal
No,
statute.
I read all of this before I came this morning because I am very, very upset with the fact that a body, I don't care who it was laying there while you are arguing that you have too many hours you've worked. There is nothing that I have ever read that says you may be a quote-unquote part-time, but you don't stop at 20 hours.
Exactly, and I never have until now, and that's the issue I've taken with him.
But that was an inappropriate time to take that up.
And
That's a
I
body.
went to them way before. I went to this a week before.
I get
and
that. I
so-
hear you, Tommy. I get that. But at that moment, you chose to dig your heels in and leave a human body laying there disrespectfully, waiting for you to decide whether or not they are paying you enough money. That's not
the case at all. Like I said, I spoke to them a week prior.
I
tried to get
don't,
stuff
I'm
from
talking
them, so-
about that particular moment. You chose to not respond to a body laying in a
And
yard.
this was their decision too, it was not just my decision.
No, it was
so
your
it was
decision to
not.
call and say, I am not going.
This is not my decision, it was
Thank
theirs
you,
just as
Cindy.
much.
Unfortunately, with what you've seen the statues and everything, whether it was Saturday or it was the prior week on Wednesday, the statute didn't change. Our hands didn't change on whether or not we could give you full-time pay or not give you full-time pay. I mean, it is a statute. There's ways we went through it. There's guidelines that we have followed. The commissioner, since you took office, we've had several questions. We've had several of these meetings. There's attorneys involved. I think our attorney is working diligent with your attorney. Nothing has came out of that whatsoever. I don't know where the standoff is on that particular issue. It would be really nice at some point in time that we can get this clarified and get this moving forward in a positive direction. But we're standing on a timeline right now on your salary. And as of January 1st, 2024, the commissioners made a budgetary decision, which we are in charge of the budget. We made a budgetary decision to leave your salary at the rate that you actually ran for office on.
Yes.
After you got into office, legislation did change.
Years before I got in.
And it gave us the opportunity, but that's where we're at. Our hands are tied by statute for 2 years after January 1st of 2024. You can get deputies. We've applied for money for deputies. We put $15,000 extra in your budget, and that was for deputies. That was for different things. And you're going to have to make that work as the oath you took for this office until 2 years from January 1st, 2024. And at this budget time, we can discuss this moving forward.
I got a question.
Okay.
How many times has Ron, or has Tony called you and told you he wasn't gonna?
Twice.
He's called, so twice he called him and told him he wasn't gonna go attend a death.
I told him the issue personally.
I don't care about the issue, but did you tell him twice that you wasn't gonna go attend?
I told him
a
there's an
death?
issue and this is the issue we're facing.
Did
and
you
I'd like
tell
to
him
get
that
it
the
figured out.
commissioners would have to take care of it then?
It is, I mean, it's your decision
No, it's
whether we're
not.
full-time or not.
I mean,
Thank goodness Memorial Day weekend we didn't have a death.
Yes.
I thought we would never see this situation. I was hoping we'd never see this
Me too.
situation come up.
I was hoping you guys would be fair and move forward with this, but it's obviously not been that. And as far as the lawyer thing, we can discuss that too. I mean, I just got a word from my lawyer yesterday saying you guys, I went through the proper channels 100% this whole time. I went to Rose told me to go to the district attorney. I went to the district attorney the first time. Rose told me I needed, she sent me a statute, I had that writing, a request from the district attorney, which I got, saying the district attorney will not represent me for the various issues that I have between you and the commissioners and myself and the coroner's office. So I went to the DA gave a written response, which Rose has, and I believe brought to you guys.
I do not have.
And Rose, can you respond to that? Has he gone through the proper channels for the original charge on the card?
Okay, so here's the issue with the original charge. And I did not get anything from the DA, and your attorney didn't know that we had to go to the DA until after I sent him the statute,
Yes.
after the commissioners made the decision. So there was a public meeting, and I don't have that right in front of me when that was. I want to say it's last June, where you brought your attorney. Conflict counsel can be approved by the commissioners. All of the other elected officials, when they need conflict counsel, which happens frequently, has to be approved by the commissioners because you do not have a line item in your budget for attorney fees. Only the commissioners have that in the broader budget and can approve that. What the issue was at that meeting was that the conflict sounded like a personal conflict and not one between the court, which did not, in the commissioner's opinion at that time, in the decision they made, warrant you to have your own attorney. And I just want to be clear, generally elected officials don't have their own attorneys. To the extent that I am able to help you, we can, and when there's a conflict, that goes before the commissioners for approval. There's no blank check for attorney's fees. At that meeting, you brought this forward. The commissioners decided that it was not a proper use of conflict counsel, made that decision that you spent money outside of your budget, which is a personal liability to you. That was the decision that they made. And so I do not have any letters from the DA, although I have had conversations with the DA. And so if there is a conflict between you and the board, then that's an issue that you'll have to bring before the board to determine. But as the commissioners have said, and as I've talked to this attorney as well, unless you can demonstrate a conflict, which at that time you did not, that required conflict counsel, the commissioners haven't approved you to have your own attorney.
I've absolutely presented it for a year now, the conflict, and I did go to the district attorney. He provided me with a written statement saying that it's a conflict of interest as the commissioners are his largest fund, or they fund him the largest. So it is a conflict of interest, whether even for him to provide, as the statute says, it says here, the district attorney, upon request of any officer of any county within the district without fee, shall give his opinion. And the district attorney said it's a conflict of interest for him to even give opinion, let alone represent me. And I've told you this, and I've presented this to you prior, even before going to the DA the second time. So whenever I retained legal counsel through the county and through the coroner's office, it was after your recommendations and doing everything that you told me to do, Rose. And now I don't understand how it can be up to the board that I have conflict with to approve this.
Because they have full constitutional authority over the budget.
Well, I
Every
know,
dollar
but if the DA says no, and they don't want to do it, and it's in statute that it comes out of the general fund, and the general fund pays for the attorney fees.
Yes. Again, you were not, when you brought this forward to the commissioners for approval, they did not see that the conflict was there. Your conflict was a personal conflict with one of the commissioners and not the board. And to say that you disagree with the board as a conflict is not actually what qualifies as a conflict.
No, I've never said I disagree with them and that's a conflict. Of course the board's going to say there's not a conflict, that's against them. So, right, I mean, this whole time they've denied me legal counsel and I have nowhere to turn. You said yourself that you only represent the interest of the commissioners. So the DA said no, so per statute I have nowhere to go, and I believe the commissioners want to set up mitigation, which is nowhere written nor in statute.
So what is the conflict that you need counsel for? I mean, they don't have to approve you suing them. There's nowhere in statute that says we're in the Constitution.
No, this isn't suing, this is just protection, which I've given to you, I don't know how many emails now, but I've told you this for the year. So, and I mean, I don't want to get into a lot of that because it's still out there and my attorney can, but I've told you this. I've sent multiple emails to you of the issue for the past year before I even retained counsel and asked your opinion on what to do. So, I mean, legally, or literally, there's no further action for me to take other than get legal counsel when I did to protect the office. Myself in the office as a coroner. This is nothing
I feel like
personal.
we're going in circles. The commissioners have to approve conflict counsel. They did not approve conflict counsel. At that meeting where they made the decision not to approve your attorney, it was because the issue brought forward at that time was a personal issue with one commissioner and not with the board. And so I don't know where to go from here. I'll be honest with you. I've had several conversations with your attorney. We've had these conversations. The board made a decision not to move forward with it. And if you requesting conflict counsel at this point, I mean, that's not what this meeting was for, but that's something that has to be approved by the board because you do not have a line item that says attorney's fees in your budget.
Which my budget, correct me if I'm wrong, but my budget I can use other line items for other things. There's nothing set that I have to use my budget, and I mean technically I can take my budget and put it in a separate account and do with what I want, correct? With approval.
Rose, do you want to talk about line item authority?
But there is not an attorney line item in your budget that you can, it's not like you can take it from, I don't know, a body bag budget and put it in attorney's fees. for attorneys.
Well, and again, I didn't anticipate this or know that I needed an attorney until it was here. So, I mean, what do I do as far as legal representation against the board? Well, what is my options? Because I have no legal representation. Obviously, they're not going to approve any sort of conflict resolution or attorney. It says clearly in statute to go to you. If it doesn't work there, go to the DA, get written response, which I did. That's all it says in statute. And then it says in another statute that the board will pay for, or out of the general fund will pay for an attorney representation for the elected official or department.
But they don't have to approve, I mean, it's up to the board if they want to approve conflict counsel. But again, I'm not really sure. Can you articulate what the conflict is?
I've sent it to you. I've sent it to you multiple times.
Yeah, but what you sent to me, the commissioners already made a determination.
No, this was
They've
prior.
already made a decision.
I've sent you stuff well before me retaining counsel.
I agree, that's what I'm saying. What you were talking about, was brought forward to the commissioners, and they made a decision that it was personal and not a board issue.
I understand that, but my issue is it goes before them. Of course, it's not going to be an issue to them. They're going to reject it. So where do I go?
In our conversation in the meeting when we discussed this conflict on this credit card, excuse me, did you not bring up when the question was asked, this was not against the board, it was against an individual commissioners, why you felt you needed conflict of counsel?
Initially, that's where it started.
And that's where it started, and that's what our decision was based on.
The entire conflict was not just against Wendy. It was Wendy acting as commissioner in several capacities. Wendy and board are with you guys bringing receipts saying that I'm embezzling and telling you guys that I was fired from my previous job for embezzlement, which is completely not true. I mean, all this stuff it's accumulation of. There's a lot of things that, and all this was brought up and said.
Okay, at this point in time, we seem to be going in circles pertaining to this issue. Does anybody have any other questions?
I believe Galen has.
Galen?
And maybe you can help me understand. I think I heard Rose say that the statute does not say 20 hours. So, as a compromise, couldn't you guys, I'm trying to play peacemaker here, couldn't you guys raise his hours to 30 hours to give him time to get his work done? And
In statute, we can't.
So
Legislative statute said January 1st, 2024, the salary has to be set. We set it according to taxpayers' wishes,
Rose,
which when they
is
got
that correct, Rose?
into office, that's what they said.
So, under Colorado labor law, for hourly employees, it's actually, I don't know where the 20-hour came from. It's actually under 32 hours is considered part-time under Colorado labor law for hourly employees, of which the coroner is not. He is a statutory elected official, and that salary has been set in statute by the legislature, and there are no hours, part-time or full-time, that qualify for any elected officials. I'm a part-time legislator. There's no set hours for us. We work until the job is done. And so setting any sort of hours would be contrary to statutes. There is no set hours in statute.
Well, in statute, if you go to Part F, it says a coroner in a Category 4 county may, in consultation with the commissioners, if a full-time position is agreed upon, the salary of full-time Category 4 coroner shall be equal to the salary of commissioners. So that's Part F, so it's not an abbreviation of Part A, whatever. So, I mean, I would like to look into that more. And from what I found, I don't have it here, but it's not set in stone. That's when it should have been done, but obviously things can change. So in Part F of that, it does say that in agreement with the commissioners, it can be changed.
So you can go and talk to someone about it. Part F, which I read first, says that first they have to determine if it is a full-time position, which they agreed it was not. And then at that point, then C would step in, which says that it can be adjusted prior to January 1st of 2024. but they never agreed to a full-time salary. So in fairness, the statute, they made a decision. The decision was part-time, it stays part-time, the salary was not adjusted. If they were gonna change it, it would have had to have been adjusted prior to January 1st of 2024. That was not the decision that they made.
I guess I'm not sure where it says and C will come into play in Part F. You said if they agree upon it, then C comes back into play.
Because the whole statute deals with full-time salary. The whole statute, I mean, if they're gonna keep it part-time, then there's nothing that they can do except keep it part-time in their budget, which is what they did. If they're gonna change it to full-time, then all of these other things come into place, but they did not. They made a decision, they consulted, they made a decision that it's part-time and kept it in the budget as part-time. The decision's been made.
And I mean, well, things change, and I know there's amendments that can be made, and I know they're looking into that more, but I mean, there's issues now, and I've brought them to your guys' attention. It's not something I want to do or want to continue to do as far as, having to not respond or do something. So as far as the 20 hours, that is per Wendy, what she said, and in the recorded bill, so that's what I went off of.
I would like you to send me that, please, because apparently it was at CCI when we were probably debating this bill.
No,
It was not personal.
you literally said you have a corner in this county that.
Probably talking about, I didn't say names, it was probably a different one. I don't know, Tommy. I don't know what you're talking about. Forward it to me, please.
Barb?
Ron,
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make it clear. In statute, there is no hourly limit for part-time or full-time or any elected official. Any elected official, whether it's coroner, legislator, or any other part-time positions. So I just want to be clear.
Okay, because I believe that all of us elected officials sitting in this room or potential elected officials took an oath that it didn't matter, your time doesn't shut off. I don't care what time it is, if it's 375 days, by statute I have to meet 2 meetings a month. That doesn't mean that's what I need. I mean, if you want to stop and look at what the commissioners do, the phone calls are answered. I'm not bragging, but I was at a CCI conference on Wednesday night, it rained here. I was on the phone at 10:15 at night with constituents call with flooding waters. And you take those phone calls, and I don't care. I made phone calls that night to people. It's just something you do.
You're compensated for that.
He's saying that he works more than 40 hours.
I get a salary, yes, okay? By statute, I get a salary for the job I do, okay, that I'm for. On this instance, we had statutes, we had areas we followed through, and the decision for the commissioners was made for this, okay? There can be a possibility to be changed 2 years from January 1st of 2024. We've made several circles in all different directions of how we're going to approach this. At this point in time, I believe you have an attorney attire. We've had, I think, 4 meetings with you, either executive session or a public meeting, and your attorney's not came forward. We have an attorney that he's more than welcome to talk to. Any of that information you have, you're more than willing to send that to Rose. Any of the letters that you said that you gave, you can send that to Rose. She can reach out to your attorney, she can reach out to you. We've left the door open that you can talk to Rose.
Well, just like Rose said, she cannot because it's a conflict of interest.
On doing your job, I'm saying.
And I do, Rose and I talk.
Doing your job. If there's contracts out there, if there's something out there that needs to be done.
And I've tried to do that with the vehicle contract, which Rose responded saying, the commissioners told me I can't help you with this because there was a donated vehicle for free.
No, we're going into.
There's just a bunch of stuff.
We're going into another total realm on that. If we want to get into the vehicle, that's another conversation we can have. There is policies that the commissioners have set in place, and that does not go just for the employees. That goes for every person, whether they're elected official or they're not. On contracts you negotiate with other counties, with any kind of grants, all that has to come through this board because it is a monetary value to this board. So that has to be taken done. So that vehicle was another issue that I really hate to, we can go into that if you want to, but that was another issue that was not followed. And that vehicle was not in the budget.
It is in the budget. Transportation is in the budget. It's a line item in the budget.
But the commissioners do not need to accept something into their fleet without approving it first. And that was the issue there, is that they chose not to accept that particular van in their fleet, which would then be outside, even, it's outside of your budget in that there are additional costs to the county that they would have to bear. And so they need to make the decision, which they made, not to accept it.
Well, there's no additional cost whatsoever. It's all budgeted for 100%.
We have insurances that we have to pay and stuff like that.
Which all comes out of my
You had
budget.
problems with that vehicle before you ever brought it. It's a what, 19, how old is the vehicle?
2001, I believe.
And so it had some problems. And you charged some stuff against that vehicle.
No, I paid for all that stuff.
You charged some stuff against that vehicle, whether you paid for it or not. It already had problems. So there was reasons why we didn't want to accept the vehicle. Tommy, it wasn't just, hey, we got a vehicle. It would have been a big problem for us to go with it.
No, I'm for you guys to go behind my back and go.
I know
to the
everything we
commissioners.
say you're against, I understand.
Everything I say you're against.
Yes.
Okay, at this point in time,
Just one question.
Cindy,
Tommy, and this is all due respect, do you want to continue to be coroner? Because if you have this many issues with the job and your salary, then maybe as voters in this community, in the county, we need to look at that, and maybe this is not the job that you should have.
Well, you can go talk to any person. I mean, I think Ron can attest to his family, to what I do on scene now in the family. So there's never been an issue with that at all. My issue is just these commissioners, and that's it.
But the issue that we came to the table today with is that you refused to do your
I
job
would
with
be
a,
compensated finally for
but
my job,
there was
is
the
what it is.
respect to that body that you did not do.
And no, that's not true at all. So.
Yes, it is.
And you can talk to the family who wants him.
I know, and that's why I'm saying.
Ron, can
So-
I say one thing?
yes, ma'am.
So
Sorry.
maybe I misunderstood, but did you say that the coroner has always been a part-time job?
Yes.
Always? Joe Gido was a part-time guy? Okay. I wonder why that is.
It was not even possible to be
A
anything
full-time.
but that.
And that was the same with commissioners, right?
I
You guys
see.
are all part-time.
Fremont
until-
County, actually how that this bill ran, 2020, it's Bill 22-065. Fremont County during COVID had so many, plus they have tripled their population. Fremont County was the one that ran this bill. They needed more. All of the counties around us, back at Kiowa, Otero, all of them have kept the statutory as is, what it was before this was enacted. The reason why is there were some of the larger counties that have increased. Prowers County has not increased population like the other ones have. That's why they did this, because statutory they could not increase the salary. And they asked if they could increase it, because statutorily we have to keep it at a salary. Our salaries, we can't be sacrificed.
So is he beating a dead horse by trying to get to be a full-time? Okay.
At this point in time, by statute,
With the other counties, real quick clarification. So Otero is a category 3 county. It's his choice not to. Every other county around us is 5 or 6 or smaller. Like I said, I'm the last category 4 county that I can find that's not full-time. And I have
May I comment on that? And I've received direction during these budget discussions, and since then, I've spoken with the other Category 4 county administrators, and it's
I'll let you spoke to the corner. It's not true, because I have a whole.
the administrators do
I have
budget,
the whole list of it.
and it's about 50-50 right now. Some have chosen to increase, and some are.
Why did they choose to increase? Is it because there's more deaths than before?
A couple places have chosen to do it. So a couple counties did it because they're in the mountains and they're more remote, and so their costs to get to a death are higher. Some counties chose they had the discussions with the coroner and chose to increase it, and they didn't even give a reason when I asked them. And some said they had more deaths. Another one did it because they were having problems with their coroner, and they actually came to an agreement with the coroner to provide the commissioners with more oversight over his office if they gave him that increase. I can give you that list. I have it. Lake County is the one that that had the agreement about giving.
I think they're 60 deaths a year or something. They got full-time coroner.
Tommy, I'm talking about Category 4 counties. I called all the Category 4 counties. I think 2 didn't respond and the rest responded, and it was a 50-50.
I think it was a little more than that. Like I said, every Category 4 I've reached out to was full-time.
Were they saying that they do full-time work, or were they saying that they did the actual statutory thing to change it? Because
and real quick, like I'm the only elected that's not full-time, correct? Or get full-time pay.
The surveyor would also not. We don't have one.
Yeah.
That's how the statute
So
reads.
the way it reads, Tommy was elected to the oath office, the salary was set. There was the option for commissioners to change that salary. The point in our budget, we decided it was not feasible to change that to a full-time status from where it was setting already. We had until January 1st, 2024 to change that.
Right.
And it ties our hands from that point. We cannot compensate him any more money for his duties for 2 years after that date. So in 2 years, 2026, he can bring it in his budget and the possibility we could.
But what I'm hearing, he's been at this for a year.
Over a year.
Before he took the oath of office, he came in and saw us before he went upstairs and took the oath of office.
And I see there's a lot of things we don't know about the public as far as like embezzlement and credit
There's
cards
a bunch
and
of
crap.
stuff that's been.
Yeah. And so that is kind of a scary thing to think of all that, you know. And as far as Tommy leaving the body, naturally I'm not going to sit here and say that's a great thing. But you know what? He's a human being, and you get frustrated to the point that you might even do that. And if any of us sit here and think, oh, I would never do that. What have you done? What sin have you committed then, Marge?
Nothing to a dead body, I will guarantee.
Well, you know what?
Okay.
Adultery, fornication, it's all, you know.
All right. Thank you.
Who's,
We're going to take one more, March.
I'm only gonna say one more thing and then I'm gonna leave. Tommy, you know darn good and well, I know that you know that I know stuff the rest of this room doesn't know.
Yeah, I think we can say whatever you like.
No.
Let's
We can talk about
we're
the biggest
totally,
liar in
But
town.
we're
I
totally
have
off
a
topic.
perfect
And now we're
example.
getting an accusing.
No,
So
I
let's-
have the perfect example to end this problem, and it goes right along with what you said, Red. I really think maybe it's time that the public does know all of these things, and probably time to let the public determine there's such a thing as a recall. And maybe that's the step where we're at, because then you could get a perfect full-time job to meet your hours
Okay,
and be
we're
on your
not
way.
staying on topic. We're going to stop this at this point in time. Okay, we had a conversation, Tommy. Rose, do you have anything to add?
No, thanks, no.
Okay. Tommy, this is where we're at today, and you have an attorney hired. I would suggest that you would reach out to Rose, have your attorney have conversations with our attorney and see if we can come to something. But by statute and everything, we have, we beat it into the ground. I don't want this meeting to go any further than it is because it's going to be personal attacks. So
again, there's no legal representation from my office still.
But that's not true. I just want to be really clear. If you have a contract, I can look at it. If you have a grant, I can look at it. Anything pertaining to your office, I can look at. But when you're trying to go outside of your budget and the authority that you have as coroner, and the commissioners direct me that they're not going to accept this man specifically, which is the issue, because any other grant you sent me, I've looked at, reviewed, and gotten back to you. The contract originally with Baca County, I reviewed and got comments back to you. It was after that point that the commissioners advised me that they're not taking it into the police. So it didn't make sense to do a contract if they're not gonna take it into the fleet. That was the conversation that we had. Now, if you wanna sue the commissioners, that's gonna be something that you're gonna have to get approval from the commissioners to pay for.
How does that
There's no
make sense? So
obligation that
I
they
wonder
can
how.
give legal counsel. Excuse me, there's no obligation for them to pay for legal counsel so that you can sue the commissioners.
But how does it make sense for me to go to them to get approval to sue them? And where does it say it in statute? I guess I don't see that in statute where it
You
says
have
that.
to, you have to go to the DA, I believe, first, to have him look at that. That's what the statute says, you have to consult the district attorney.
Which I advised him, he's responded, but, so what about, I mean, you guys are
Well,
withholding my,
district is-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. So the district is going, he has a conflict in representing you to sue the commissioners. That's what he said. And so he's able to provide legal opinions as long as it's not where you're trying to sue the commissioner. That's what he told me.
No,
Again,
he-
I don't have your letter from the DA, but
Oh, Rose.
I mean,
We
I
don't want to be held on.
generally elected officials don't sue the commissioners, so I don't know that there's good case law one way or the other.
So with, like, withholding my money, like, any reimbursements or my phone, I
No,
mean,
it's-
how is that legal or right?
so nothing is being withheld any longer.
Any longer, but it has been.
So
But
it
why-
has been because the commissioners gave direction. There's an unapproved expense in your budget that we had to pay because it was on the credit card. And they were trying to recoup the cost for the county.
By taking my money, basically.
Well, they determined that you owed the county that money.
It's their
So-
opinion, so.
No,
But, I
it's
mean,
their
what was their
determination as,
judgment?
excuse me, it's their determination as sitting over the budget, their constitutional duty. They did not approve an expense. The elected official or department head, in that case, who spent that money is personally liable to pay it back. We started going down that path. It was causing so many conflicts that they gave me direction to no longer do that. I believe the amount owed is still in the around $1,700. There's other avenues that they might take for that, but for right now, we are not withholding anything from them.
But you have for months now since what,
We did,
January?
again, the total was around $1,900 to start out, $1,940, I think, $1,948. So we withheld for several months reimbursements to bring that dollar amount down. As at the direction of the Board of County Commissioners, my office did that.
And I believe there's been communications, Rose, right, with Tommy's attorney on that particular item, which we can't get into that
Yes, there's been
conversation.
a lot of communications. Yes, there have been a lot of communications.
Right, any other questions?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay. Tom,
I don't have anything.
Wendy?
I think we discussed it.
Mark, Rose, any comments?
No, I have nothing.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the special BOCC meeting.
Second.
Motion made second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the time is 11:02, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much.